Welcome to the Shake Up Learning Back to School Conference, and welcome to my session, Teaching with Google Jamboard. I am Kim Mattina, and I'm going to teach you all about how to use Google's digital whiteboarding tool in your classroom. I'm going to go over some of the basics. I'm going to show you how it supports the 4 C's of education, and I'm going to give you some examples on how you can use it with all of your students. So let's get started. All right, so what is Google Jamboard? Jamboard is Google's digital whiteboarding tool, all right? And Jams are just like any other Google file. They live in your Google Drive, all right? They are free, all right? So you need to access Jams in your Drive, and you can move Jams around. You can put them in folders. You can share them just like any other Google file, all right? So the first thing I need to do is go to Drive and click on New, go to More, and see if you have Jamboard listed in the drop-down list. If you don't see it, then you need to contact your IT department or your tech department and ask them to enable Jamboard in your domain. If you see it listed there, then you are ready to use it. So we're going to get started, all right? So once I click on Google Jamboard, a blank Jam opens up, okay? And the first thing that you're going to want to do is rename it. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to rename my file to, let's just call it Demo2, all right? And now I'm ready to go, all right? I always get into the habit of renaming my files right away so that it doesn't get saved as untitled, all right? I hate going into my Drive seeing any type of untitled file, so I always rename my files immediately. So this digital whiteboarding tool is very simple to use. It's not overwhelming. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles with it. It's really simple. And sometimes simple is good, right? We like to keep things simple so that we don't get overwhelmed with things. So I'm going to go over the interface a little bit with you, show you how to use it, and then I'm going to go over how you can use it in your classroom. I'm going to show you and share some templates from my new Teaching with Google Jamboard book, and then we're going to wrap it up, okay? One thing I do want to share with you is that Jamboard is available as an app. You can download it on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store, and you can use it on your mobile device, your iPad, and just keep in mind that this presentation is going to focus on the web version of Jamboard, not the app, okay? So we're going to get started. So right now I'm in a Jam, and I have a blank frame in front of me, okay? Each page in a Jam is called a frame, okay? So the menu bar here on the left side will allow me to add different types of markers and colors into my frame, all right? So I can change the thickness of the lines. I can change the color of the pen, all right? And I can actually, you know, if I wanted to highlight, I can do that as well and highlight. So I do have options here, all right? The next icon in the list here is an eraser. So if I just hover over and start dragging and click and drag, I have to hold down the button on my mouse and drag to erase it. It will erase it. The next icon is the select tool, and I'll get to that in a minute. The next icon is a sticky note tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a new frame. All right, and this is a sticky note. Okay, so I'm going to add another sticky note, and I can add different color sticky notes. All right. And when I'm done, I'm going to hit cancel. Okay, so I can add different sticky notes. All right, now if I click on the select tool, I can select the object that I want to manipulate, and I can rotate the object. All right, I can resize it. All right, and when I click on an object, I get a 3-dot menu. And whenever you see 3 dots, it gives you more options. So I can edit this sticky note. I can duplicate it very quickly. All right, I can delete the sticky note as well. And then I have an order. And the order option is going to allow you to put that object in front of or behind another object. All right, so if I click here, let's see, maybe I have to do it to another, there it goes. So now my blue sticky note is behind the orange one. If I wanted to change the order and bring it to the front, I can. Okay, so that can be a very nice feature if you wanted to show something like this object right here. Is you can look at it as like putting that object in a bucket or in a container. Okay. The next icon is the image. So I can, let me go back to my first slide. I can insert an image from my device, all right, from Google Photos, from Google Image Search, from Google Drive, all right, from by a URL as well. So I'm going to click on Google Image Search, and I'm going to type in hummingbird, and I'm going to insert this picture of the hummingbird into my frame. All right, and now students can create a choice, a vision board, if they wanted to, all right, by just inserting images in here. So if I go back to image search and I insert, I don't know, say nectar, we'll just do this picture here. All right, it's just a picture of a flower showing nectar. All right, so you get the hint. Okay, so I can insert images, and this is a great way for students to maybe collaborate just using images for an assignment. Okay, the next icon is the shape tool. So I am going to go to a new frame, and I can insert all of these images, all of these shapes here. So if I just click and drag, it'll insert that shape. And now here up at the top, I can change the border of that, the border color of that image, of that shape. I can also change the fill of that shape. All right, so this is a nice way to differentiate or sort different topics out if you needed to. Let's just do this. All right, so I can use my shape tool in any way that I would want to illustrate a concept. All right, I'm going to go to the next page. I can go and turn this and rotate it so that it's going back. All right, if I wanted to duplicate this, I can. Now I can flip this so that I have a forward and a back button. All right, now if I wanted to say back and next for these buttons, I can insert a text box. So if I click on the T for text, I have to click on the frame, and now I can type inside my text box. Now, you can see here that my text is blue, and that was because that's where I left off previously. So I can come up here to the A, I can change the color of my text, I can change the size of my text. All right, I can make the text box bigger, and I can align it if I wanted to. So I have center align, I have left, and I have right. So then I can just drag that right in there. All right. I can take this text box, click the three dots and duplicate it. Now move it over here and just put in back. And let's change the color to red. I'm going to change the arrow border to red as well. And there I go. So you can add text boxes and shapes, manipulate the border and the fill of those objects as well. The last one is a laser pointer. So this is a great way to have students focus on a specific area of your frame or content or word or picture. Okay, so you can use the laser for that. It's a great way to shift focus on something, especially during remote learning, but it absolutely can be used for in-person learning as well. The next thing that I want to show you is the background. So what I want to do is, if I wanted to have the students maybe draw or print their name, I can change the background to the lined paper. If I wanted the students to graph, I can change it to graph paper. And now I can, let's go back into here. Now I can have students graph the equation on the coordinate plane. So you can use the graph paper for that. Another example of using the background is the blue and the black. Okay, so the blue background is nice, but if you wanted to contrast for certain students, you can use the white marker, and now look how nice it contrasts. All right, so you can contrast your information with brighter sticky notes or marker tool. Okay, so there we go there. And you can do that even with the black background as well. So either way, it's a contrast that you should keep in mind. Now, the next one that I wanted to show you was that you can insert your own custom background. So that means you'd have to create your own background image. Now, when I create my images, I usually use Google Drawings and download that Google Drawing file as an image. But you can certainly do it in Google Slides if you want, or even in Canva or any other type of illustration tool. The point is that you can upload that right into your frame and change the background of your frame in Jamboard. So this can drive your instruction. All right, so I'm going to go to a new frame. So when I go to a new frame, it inserts a new frame here. Okay, and if I go back, it'll go back to the previous frame. So I'm just going to click next to go to a blank frame. Now, I already created something in Google Drawings just to save time. So here I created a Google Drawing file, and I changed the file page setup to, you have to change it to pixels, and I changed it to 9600 by 5400. Okay, and this is how I got the size of the drawing file. And now I can insert word art, I can insert images, I can insert any type of object in my drawn file. So what I'm going to do is insert my Bitmoji, and I'm going to copy this one and paste it in here. And there's my Bitmoji. Okay, now what I'm going to do is download this Google Drawing file as an image. I always download it as a PNG file. And now what I'm going to do is come back into my Jamboard, go into my frame, and change my background. So I'm going to click on Set Background, and I'm going to upload this image. And there's my new custom background. Now, the background is very powerful. You can create different backgrounds for different groups of students, for targeting different needs. You can create backgrounds for handwriting templates. There's so many things that you can do with the background, and that can drive your instruction. So you can use it for differentiating, you can use it for group work. It really is a game changer. All right, and the best part about it is students can't delete your images from here because it's a background. All right, so you have to keep that in mind, because if I just inserted my Bitmoji on top of a frame, let's just say it's this one. All right, now students can actually move your images around. All right, and if they wanted to, they can actually delete it. All right, when you upload your customized background with your images on it, students cannot move it, they cannot delete the images. Plus, it's easier for the jam to load. The jam will load quicker because it's not loading multiple images on that jam. Okay, so I would highly recommend customizing your background. One other thing that I wanted to show you here was the 3-dot menu. You can rename a jam, you can download a jam as a PDF file. You can save the frame as an image. So if I did that, it just downloads this frame as an image. That's all it does, okay? So you can have students download their own frames and turn in their frame in Google Classroom, okay? So that's another option for students to turn in work. You can delete this jam, you can make a copy of it and see the version history of it as well. If I click on see version history, I can restore a certain version of this jam. So I can restore it, okay? And that's a fairly new feature of Jamboard. All right, so what I'm gonna do is go into my presentation. All right, so I went over what Jamboard is, but I'm gonna explain it again now that you see a better understanding of the interface, and I gave you a couple of I mentioned a couple of ways of using it. So Jamboard is Google's digital whiteboarding tool. It's a blank learning space, okay? When you use Jamboard, you have to really think out of the box, okay? It is dynamic, which is awesome, and it is a collaboration tool, all right? It's not meant to be used for a presentation. Think of it as it doesn't have a present button, right? If you need to present information, use Google Slides, all right? In this example here, I'm presenting on Jamboard, so my information that I'm presenting to you is in Jamboard. But if I was in school, in class, I wouldn't present information this way to my students. I would present it to them in a different way. So I'm just showing it to you in this content in this way because of the topic of the presentation. It is available on the web. It is best if you use Google Chrome when you're using Jamboard. It is available as a free app from the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. And I'm not really going to mention the kiosk throughout the presentation at all. I just want you to be aware that there is a hardware component. It's the kiosk of the Jamboard, which is an additional cost to use, and that's another area that that I'm not really going to go over the kiosk. I'm really going to focus on the web version in this presentation. But just know that the kiosk is available and it's an option if your school district wanted to purchase it. All right, so again, think of Jamboard as a collaboration tool. All right, it was meant to collaborate with other people. All right, so Jamboard came out for big businesses and was used during meetings so that people can brainstorm and look up information on the kiosk actually, and work together in their meetings. Okay, and they collaborated on Jamboard. So Jamboard was really meant to be used as a collaboration tool, not as a presentation tool. And what you can use Jamboard, teachers can use Jamboard right in your Drive. You can create jams right from your Drive. You can access and insert Drive files right within Jamboard, and that's basically on the app, not necessarily on the web. You can share jams just like any other Google file. All right, so it has the sharing capabilities. You can app smash with Jamboard, and it's nice because it integrates with Google Classroom. You can share your jam right with Google Classroom and attach it to an assignment. All right. You can use it for story starters to post questions and polls. You can use it for exit tickets, picture prompts, to give students feedback. You can create templates and you can view it in real time. All right. These are just some examples of how students can use it. So students can sketch note, all right? Visual learners can sketch note, illustrate what they learned. They can create charts, timelines, diagrams, concept maps. They can brainstorm in here. They can share and collaborate in here, and they can take notes, okay? And there's so much more that students can do with Jamboard, but these are just some ideas. All right. Now, what does it support? All right. I'm a big proponent of trying to target the 4 C's of education. All right. And I believe Jamboard does that. All right. It does promote collaboration. It does promote communication, because when you collaborate, you have to communicate clearly. It does support creativity and critical thinking, especially if students are working on a project. Just say it's an engineering design process, that thought process can lead into critical thinking skills and higher order thinking skills and problem solving skills as well. So it's a great tool to support all the 4 C's of education, plus curation as well, okay, because they're putting information into this jam and they're sharing it. So curation is another area that Jamboard supports. It really does support any subject, any grade level, and it really does support all learners, okay? But you have to remember to use it for teamwork or group work, all right? So these were just some features of each component. So I have the kiosk features in orange. I have the app features in in pink. And then I have the web features in blue. And what they share in common is the green sticky notes. So like, again, I'm not going to go over all this because the web version doesn't have all the same features as the app, and the app doesn't have all the features as the kiosk. And I had said that I was going to focus on the web version only. So with that said, I'm just going to move on. All right, so one of the big things is, how can we use this in our classroom? So here we go. So many ideas. Again, timelines, diagrams, all right, exit tickets, breakout rooms, sorting. Students can sort information. Labeling. Students can label, parts of the United States. They can label or count money and coins, all right? They can use it for graphing. They can use it for illustrations. There's so many examples. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to look at a few templates from my new book, called Teaching with Google Jamboard so that you can actually see how Alice Keeler and I collaborated and came up with some of these templates. So one way of using Jamboard is back channeling. So I just did a presentation and I used Jamboard to back channel. The presentation was done virtually, and since I'm not with the attendees, I gave them the opportunity to back channel with me using Jamboard. So if they had any questions during the presentation, they can post their question in the Jam, and then I would get to it later on. You can use the same thing. Now, this is just one example. You can have students use a sticky note tool and use the yellow sticky note to make an observation about your lesson or presentation. You can have students use the green sticky note to ask questions, and you can have students use the pink sticky note to respond. All right, so there's all different ways of back channeling, but this was just one example of how we thought of using back channeling. And I just gave you another example of how I back channeled with the presentation that I just did. Another way of using Jamboard is through breakouts. Okay, so during remote learning, we were putting students in breakout rooms, but how were we keeping them accountable for what they were doing? Well, you can use Jamboard for that. Okay, you can create a template, and this template was created in Google Drawings, and we uploaded that image as the background, and now we're using this as a template for breakout rooms. So you can have students use this template and discuss and jot down what they discussed throughout their session, okay? It's just another way of holding students accountable during the breakout, all right? So you can use it as a breakout. And what I would do here is I would create an assignment in Google Classroom for specific students. So for this example, I would assign it to 4 students and attach this Jam as edit rights to that assignment and assign it to those 4 students. Now all those 4 students have access to this Jam and they can collaborate together on this Jam. Oops, let me go back. Another way of using Jamboard is through the engineering design process. So we know that the engineering design process has many steps involved, and you can have a group of students working together on a system for STEM or for science or for math, and have them identify the different problems of their project, have them brainstorm. All right, and this is just another template that they can collaborate on. Okay, they have to select some type of design, they have to build a prototype of it, they have to test and evaluate it, optimize it, and share the solution. Okay, so this is just another example of using Jamboard for collaboration. Another great way to use Jamboard is to design a game board template. All right, so you can put students in a group, a small group, and have them design a game board. All right, and what I mean by that is that they have to collaborate together and come up with clear objectives, clear rules on how to play their game. And their game has to focus on your content. So basically, the game is going to be a result of what they learned from your lesson, okay, or from the unit. All right, so they can design a game board in Jamboard, all right, and they have to come up with the design of the board, really. All right, they can design their own pieces. They can have different actions when they land on different spaces. But what they have to do is that they have to come up with the object of the game. All right, how does somebody win? All right, what are the rules? They have to define different action spaces on the board. How does the person move or advance to the next space? All right, and then like what does the winner receive at the end when the game's over? So this is a nice way for students to really work together to show what they know about your content or about the unit in a fun way. Another way that you can use Jamboard is through a gallery walk. Okay, so what you can do is you can look for an image, change that background to that image, and now you can have picture prompts for students to comment on. So you can have students collaborate all in here together at one time and really have them interpret the image that is being displayed. And then if you wanted to, you can even have them respond to another comment as well. Okay, so you can certainly do this. Another template that Alice and I came up with was a parking lot template. So think of a parking lot as an area like when, I don't know if you guys ever went to a PD where you had a parking lot poster, but basically there's a poster on the wall and attendees have sticky notes and they would go to the poster and they would put their sticky note on the poster, and the sticky note can be feedback, it could be about getting more help, following up, maybe different ideas, what's working, what's not working. But sometimes in that session, the sticky notes would fall down and then they would get overlooked. You can use Jamboard for that instead. Okay, keep it all digital and have students use this and collaborate together on here to figure out what's working, what's not working. Okay. All right, so I showed you about 5 different templates. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on through the rest of this file here. So another way of using Jamboard is through picture prompts. So you can actually use different pictures or icons and have your students kind of guess what the prompt is, okay? So kind of like digital charades in a way, but it's using the pictures instead of, GIFs. So you can actually prompt them maybe with like a brain break or an icebreaker and have them figure out like what's going on in these little mini picture prompts. So for this example here, I have a person thinking. So it's thinking outside the box, okay? So you want to make sure that, it's just a little fun, and you can have students create their own picture prompts as well. And maybe at the end of the week, students can share what they created. Okay, so again, I went over this image before, but you can have students interpret pictures and comment on the picture. So this is a fun one. You can group students together in pairs or even in groups of 3, and you can have students write a story. And you have to come up with, for older students, you can come up with some type of constraints to make it a little bit harder. For elementary students, you can kind of just say, hey, I need a beginning, middle, and end. And they can work together on a story, and they can agree on 5 different emoji or 5 different words that can be replaced with emojis or images, and they can create their emoji story writing. So this is a fun activity to do with your students. You can also have students search the web for artwork, and they can draw their own artwork or their own version of it. You can app smash with Jamboard. Okay, so again, Google Drawings, you can app smash with Jamboard by creating your background image and inserting it into the background of the frame in Jamboard. All right, I showed you that before. You can also do that with Google Slides. Okay. You can app smash with Bitmoji, Equatio, Screencastify, Google Meet, Flipgrid, Google Keep, and Google Slides. And I'm sure there's so many more ways that you can app smash as well, but these were more of the common ones that I've used. So the first thing to do is, if you want to use app smashing with Equatio, you have to install the Equatio Chrome extension from the Chrome Web Store. And when you do that, you'll be able to insert equations or formulas right within a frame in Jamboard. So now you can post an equation in there, and then maybe have a group of students working together to solve the equation. Okay, so this is a great example of app smashing. Another way that you can app smash is with Google Keep. So if students take notes in Google Keep on their mobile device, they can download that as a picture and then insert that into a Jam. Another way you can app smash is with Screencastify. So you can embed your webcam in this frame, and you can explain or show your work or use the laser tool to emphasize attention to a specific area on the screen while the students see your lovely face or your webcam. All right, and now you can actually integrate Meet. All right, so what happens is, when you create a Google Meet, let me go into this presentation. When you create a Google Meet, okay, you can actually open a Jam right within a Meet. Okay, so when you click on the three dots, all right, within the Meet, you would select open a Jam or whiteboard, and you will be able to start a new whiteboard or create a new Jam right within your Google Meet. All right, which is nice. If you wanted to open up an existing Jam within the Meet, you have that option as well. But if you don't and you want to create a new one, a new Jam, you would just click on Start a New Whiteboard. And what happens is, within the Meet, okay, this is an example, the Jam is automatically saved in the chat, or is automatically shared in the chat. Okay, so everybody that's in that Meet will have access to that Jamboard file, okay, because the link is in the chat. And you'll notice here up at the top in this screen capture that in the Jam, the name of the Jam is the meeting ID. So when you look for it in Drive, you're not going to see a very descriptive name for that Jam. You're going to see the meeting ID as the name of that Jam. So keep that in mind as well. All right, again, I just explained that to you. So you have to make sure that you keep note of this, because if you wanted to rename this, I would rename it to a more descriptive name, maybe department meeting, math meeting, so that you can easily identify with it in your Drive. Okay, so you could see here it saves it as a file in your Drive. Well, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed my session. And if you're looking for more ideas, you can pick up my new book that I co-authored with Alice Keeler, Teaching with Google Jamboard. We give you over 90 ways on how you can use it in the classroom, and we give you over 150 templates. So I'm sure you'll be able to find a template in here that will be suitable for your kids. If you would like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at the_tech_lady. You can always email me at kim@shakeuplearning.com. Thanks for joining me today. Bye.